Hi guys, I'm Ella. I'm a social media specialist and I'm just going to have a chat to you guys tonight about building a brand identity using media. So I guess probably the best place to start is giving you a bit of a background onto, I guess, why I'm here and who I am. So I previously have worked in social media for about 4 years now, and so have also studied a degree in PR. I kind of fell into social media through one of Australia's biggest banks, and from there moved into an advertising agency. As my career sort of moved along, I kind of decided that teaching people how to use social media for their business and understanding really what we're actually talking about is where I wanted to be, because I really do love working with small business owners and startups and hearing, I guess, the story behind why they started or what made them passionate about it. So that's kind of where I started. I also have a little bit of a soft spot for you guys as well, because my mum graduate from Endeavour Colleges. She went through as a nutritionist, and so she came out the other side. So I do certainly love hearing about, I guess, the natural health and the well-being of that particular. So yeah, so I thought I'd better jump on in and start it off. So essentially, the first thing we're going to have a look at is, you would have seen a slide like this before. So I've actually taken pretty much the where you can go with Endeavour Colleges and with your degrees, and just tweaked it a little bit to give you a bit more of an overview of kinds of social media channels that you might like to use. So these are the sort of channels, while you don't have to use all of them and you may not even use 50% of them, they are channels that may be relevant to you. One thing I do recommend for any person is definitely jumping onto LinkedIn as soon as you can. Now, you may not use it even every day. You may not use it even every other day, but it is something really awesome to have, because you can have it as sort of a touch point of where you keep your stuff. So just having a bit of a look around, as you can see, some of them are lighter on social media channels than others, and that's generally because they may not be as relevant. But certainly over here, when we look at entrepreneurs and our freelancers, they do seem to have a lot more, I guess, in-depth options around social media, but that's really also because they could do anything. So just because you're an entrepreneur, you may not actually use all of these channels here. And sorry, this little yellow one, I know it's a little bit weird to see, but that's Snapchat. It just didn't quite show up as nicely as I would have liked. But these are the sort of channels. So I'm not sure if you've graduated or you're graduating soon and you're sort of looking at where you're going and what you're doing. This is just a general overview of the sort of channels that you should be looking at, depending on which career pathway you're taking. And just as a preface as well, when we are discussing social media channels tonight, we won't be looking as heavily at YouTube or Snapchat. They are very relevant channels. However, as a small business owner and in terms of cost, I do find that the other channels on here, and as I said, there are certainly more channels like Google Plus and Vine and those sorts of ones. I uploaded those tonight. If you do have questions, you can hit me up at the end, but just at this stage, these are the general ones we're talking about. So jumping on in, we've got to start somewhere. So we're going to have a bit of an overview, and this is on the most recent stats from Census about, I guess, how people in Australia actually use the internet and how they use social media. So looking at this, 84% of Australians access the internet daily, and of those people, 56% or more access more than 5 times a day. So what that's really telling us is that people are constantly connected, and of that 56, the next biggest percentage is 28%. So everyone is very connected to the internet and very connected on a daily basis. So it is somewhere that, as a business owner or as a brand, so you may not even actually open a business, may become a person who is a brand identity themselves. You know, it is a really good touch point to reach your audience. When we look down here, 0% have never touched the internet. So not be true. There are probably people in the world that or in Australia that haven't touched the internet. However, that is such a small percentage that it's not even able to be included. Now looking at this again, 67% of people who actually use a smartphone access the internet more than 5 times a day. So as soon as you've got one of those smart home devices in your hand, your chances of using the internet daily skyrocket. You are likely to just be an addict. And I mean, I don't know about you guys, but it's just so convenient. I certainly use my phone all the time, and I almost have a bit of, you know, a freak out if it's not right next to me or near me, and I shouldn't. It's very upsetting that I am dependent on it, but it is a reality. Now, just having a look as well, this is kind of how and when people social network. So it is quite useful to understand this particular graphic. just because that way we can start to work out if we are using social media as a business, when are people using it and how do we actually engage with them? So when is the best time for us to be posting? So in the evening time and first thing in the morning and around lunchtime as well. So they're kind of the main times to be posting, and it also depends on what type of business you are as well, or what type of practitioner or brand you use. Looking a little bit further on, now this one might seem a bit more abstract, but social media at home, it is actually quite useful to look at this and kind of read between the lines. So if I'm looking at this and saying most people use internet at home in the lounge room, bedroom and kitchen, it means they're not actually using it for work. It means they're using it for leisure. So if you're in your lounge room or your bedroom and you're using your computer or laptop or phone or accessing social media, the likelihood is you're just looking to engage with family and friends and using it for fun. The interesting one that I actually wanted to point out for you guys as well is the kitchen one. So people using social media in the kitchen are likely watching food videos and recipes. So that is an interesting one for you guys as well. If you are looking to go down the author or cookbook recipe writer or with the food preparation side of things, there is quite a big percentage of people who are actually accessing social media in their kitchens on a daily basis. All right, so the next part of the slides would go through each channel and we're going to break down as to the basics of what you need to know and how they're best used. So we're looking at LinkedIn first, and with LinkedIn, we can have a look and it says 18% of Australians use LinkedIn. Now, I know that seems like a small number, but that's approximately 3.6 million people. And the reason why I still push LinkedIn a little bit further as well is because Microsoft recently purchased LinkedIn for $25 billion about a year ago. So I think there's big things coming for this channel. I do believe that there will be significant changes and it will be pushed quite heavily. The peak of users in LinkedIn for Australia, the peak of people registering, that's a tongue twister, was in 2015. And people on average LinkedIn 8 times a week, so 8.89 times a week. Now, one of the big benefits of LinkedIn is that it appeals to people over the age of 30. However, there are users in both sets of demographics. So most users that we are finding are over 30, which generally signifies that they're in their professional life. Because at the end of the day, LinkedIn is a professional networking site. It's not necessarily designed to share photos of your kids or talk about your cat or, you know, more of the social thing. It's really to keep you moving forward in your business. So just a little dot point there, it is primarily business focused. One of the big benefits and uses of LinkedIn is sharing articles and professional networking. So quite often I write articles or post articles directly to LinkedIn because it really helps with putting you as the expert. So it makes people believe that you are an expert in your field and it gives you that standpoint. So as I said a little bit earlier as well, you may not LinkedIn frequently, but it's a great place to use as a digital resume. So you keep your skills up to date, keep everything constant, and certainly keep updating as you go, because what that does mean is that if anyone wants to look you up or wants to understand a bit more about you or get to know you even before a meeting, quite often when I have a meeting request in my calendar, I get a LinkedIn notification telling me, learn about this person before I meet them. So it is very important to keep that as up to date as possible. Because the other reason is it shows up in your search engines. So SEO being search engine optimization. If I was to search, for example, Ella Doyle, there's a high likelihood that my LinkedIn profile will be quite high ranking and pop up pretty early on. So it is really great when people are trying to look you up. It's not so great if you're trying to hide from people, but keeping that as professional, as up to date. And that's why placing yourself as the expert and being the expert is one of the best things to do on LinkedIn, because it does allow you to really show that you have the knowledge. And I mean, you guys all have degrees, or you're all graduating from a profession. So you guys are an expert to begin with. So show that. Tell people why you guys are the professionals, and you know what makes you different to someone else. The next one we're going to have a look at is Facebook. Now, most of you probably do use Facebook personally. We can see that in our stats over here that 94% of Australians use Facebook. So it is a fantastic platform to be on as a person, but B, as a brand or an identity to be creating that movement. So as we start looking through, we can see that the peak of Facebook signups was in 2016, so it's still quite still growing quite quickly, but can't get a lot more higher than 94%. You will still find people won't be signing up, but that's a lot of people. Most people use it 25 times a week, so that is quite a lot of time to have. One thing I always mention about Facebook before going further is if you get to a point where you want to start paying for advertisements, you don't have to, but if you do have to be aware that you need to be respectful of the people's time, because when you're sending someone an ad in Facebook, you're actually entering their personal time, whereas versus LinkedIn, for example, they're kind of there to be in a business mode. So always being aware of what your audience is doing and why they're on a platform is really important. It appeals to all demographics. So again, 94% of Australians are on Facebook, so we can't really say there's a specific sway one way or another of the type of people using it. It's great to, as a brand, to show your business and your personality. So when I say business and personality, I mean you can show that you're an expert, you can show, industry articles and all that sort of stuff, but people do expect to see a bit more fun, a bit more brand, here's what we're doing in the office today, or here's what we're doing in clinic, or here's this, that, and we're actual humans and you can connect and talk to us. Because, and I probably should have mentioned this a bit earlier, but the purpose of social media is to be social. I know it seems obvious, but you'll be amazed at how many times people forget that. So it is to be social. So showing your personality through Facebook is a fantastic place to do it. Some of the key benefits of Facebook is that you can engage with audiences on a personal level, so you can actually talk to them and they can reply to you, and people do that. Content is very shareable, so that's going viral. It really allows you to have content that can be transferred from one person to another in a very quick way and be seen by a lot of people. And branding, so if you do social media perfectly and do Facebook right, it gets to a point where someone who is a follower of your business will see a post from you and know it's your post before even seeing the name attached to it. Or if someone shared it, they go, yep, that's a post from so-and-so. Branding can have a strong alliance inside Facebook. One thing I also suggest, especially for you guys as well, is if you do find that you have clients coming to you and you do work with them quite closely, using groups for deeper engagement is an awesome thing to do. So groups are a different sort of set to your Facebook business pages. They're set up and you can add people to it and it's private. Facebook currently is driving people towards that group mentality because they really want to have more of a community feel to Facebook. So there are a lot of changes and developments coming through that area. So if you guys are at the stage where you're like, well, if I have a business page, I'm thinking of making a business page, I certainly recommend also making a group and just start growing it as you go. So whether that might be closed for client only, or it might be an interest group, or whatever it is, or it might even be you all make a group for naturopaths or nutritionists or whoever and use it as a group. You can certainly do that as well. So the next one we're going to have a quick peek at is tracking pixels. Now, well down the track for once you've established your page and you're actually in the advertising world. But the awesome thing about this particular thing, tracking pixels, which I know sounds very technically wordy, is essentially a line of code that you put into your website and it follows people around the internet. So it seems pretty creepy and you might want to put a tinfoil hat on. But if you land on my website, let's say, and then you click onto something else, I can see that you've done that and remarket to you if I want to. And that's really, really vital for brands because then they can start looking at, okay, well, who am I re-engaging with? So that's like, for example, if you click on a pair of shoes on someone's website and then all of a sudden that same pair of shoes appears on your Facebook page, the likelihood is they've tracked you with a Facebook pixel. So that is an option that you can do with Facebook and through to Instagram as well. And finally, I've just got a little dot point in here that one of the big benefits of Facebook is cost. Now, again, when you're growing and as you're getting up there, it does make it a bit tricky to have a cost, but it certainly is cheaper than most traditional media in terms of advertising. And the reason why it is cheaper is because you know who you're marketing to. You can market to people specifically based on their interests and based on their age, and you can even go as far down as to so-and-so recently got engaged, I'm going to market to her. So if maybe down the track you're thinking of doing a bridal boot camp, for example, you can actually market to those people just after their engagement. All right. So the next
Ella, I'll
slide.
just give
Yes,
you,
go
I
ahead.
just put up a poll for everybody just then to see which
Okay.
social media everyone's using, and there's no surprises. 40% are using Facebook, 2% are
Uh-huh.
using LinkedIn, 53% are using Instagram, 2% was just the other, like Twitter, Snapchat, etc., and then 2% said they're not. So
Okay.
I didn't go into what they're using it for, like that could be like private or work related, but just to give you an idea as well.
Yeah, excellent. Well, I am surprised that 2% of you are using LinkedIn. I would strongly recommend that you all jump on and either sign up or connect with each other. It's a fantastic place as well to reconnect with people that you've previously worked with. Um, so I know it's one of those things. It's like, oh, another social media channel that I need to be on, but there certainly are some benefits to being on there. And as I said, you're not expected to post content frequently. It's quite a useful thing to just sort of set and forget because it's an awesome sort of channel to have. Thanks for doing the poll, Rayleigh. That's actually very cool knowledge. All right, so we'll jump on to the next one, which is the Instagram slide. So going through here, we'll go through again and have a look at, so 46% of Australians use Instagram, which kind of aligns with what you guys were saying, peaked this year. So it is a very big growth spurt at the moment for Instagram. It's becoming very user-friendly. It's owned by Facebook. So it is quite useful to have those two linked. But there certainly is a massive growth there, and we've seen a lot of businesses growing onto Instagram as well. So on average as well, users who use Instagram are highly engaged. They engage with 38 times per week with the channel, and 81% of the users are under the age of 30. Now, in saying that though, like if the other 19% are over the age of 30, that's still a great audience to tap into as well. The best use for Instagram is your personality, so showing your brand personality rather than just your personality. So there is a separation between that, and it can be difficult to draw that line. But your professional personality or your brand personality as you, or your brand persona, if you are your brand, is the best thing to show on Instagram. So it just gives people a more engaging visual of what's going on. As I just mentioned, it's visually engaging, and there is a big community mentality. So I know with my networking on social media, I find Instagram is the place that most people will engage with me, and they're more likely to comment on things and like things and ask me questions, send me messages. And it is a big community sort of thing with Instagram, which is what Facebook's trying to get. And that's why, as I briefly mentioned before, they are building those groups as a big driver for them. It is integrated with Facebook, which does mean that you are able to do some deeper marketing as you get a bit bigger or as you are starting to activate ad campaigns. So you can certainly use that as well. So no, there's no secret here. Instagram is my favorite channel. I absolutely love it. I think it has amazing reach. It has amazing use in terms of giving people a bit more of an insight to you, because as I said, at the end of the day, social media is social and people do want to know who you are and what you're about. So being able to share that with them on a visual level is a very, very useful thing. The other reason why I do love Instagram as a platform is it doesn't cost much. It's not restricted as much as Facebook in terms of people seeing your content. Most people are able to see it. So it is awesome, and that's the reach at the end of the day. So using hashtags and using locations and tagging other people, and you can do all of those things on Instagram, and it gives you more exposure, and it doesn't cost a penny. So I love it for that exact reason. I don't think we've spent a cent on our Instagram account for Social Cut, and it's certainly helped us the most out of all of our channels. Briefly touch on, it is not a huge platform in Australia, but it is growing and it has niche audiences. So 10% of Australians are using Pinterest. It's peaked this year. So it is somewhere that is growing. It hasn't grown anywhere near as rapidly as Instagram, but there is growth there. So I generally recommend using Pinterest as a secondary social media channel if you are looking to do that, because it adds personality and function. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with the channel, but essentially you're pinning images onto a timeline of things that you're interested in. It appeals, as I said, to niche users. So I know there's a huge crochet community on Pinterest. I know that's very random, but someone told me that recently. Also, there's actually a lot of foodies on Pinterest, sorry, and there's a number of other sort of niche audiences as well. So there's quite a few health concerned people, a lot of fitness people. So they do have their own little niche audiences. visually engaging, and there's collections, so you can actually collect a bunch of images together. I find this quite useful as well to share tips and inspo. So as I mentioned before, I use it as a secondary channel. So if I was working with a client and they had Facebook and Instagram, it allows people to dive a little deeper into the brand. So you'd pin up ideas of, here's an ideas board, or here's an interest board or an inspo board onto your Pinterest account, and then share that across the other social media channels that you're using. The other thing I love about it is it can be easily integrated into your website. So if you just hover over, let's say, a picture, a little pin pops up and you can hit it. So those people that are using Pinterest can pin and share it very easily. Alrighty, so we're now on to Twitter. Essentially with Twitter, it is a big platform here in Australia. There is 32% of Australians using it. However, it's very fast and sharp. So it did peak this year as well. And 70% of the users are under the age of 30. It is an awesome channel if you're wanting to engage with experts and media. I know a lot of authors use it. It's very fast, very witty, and very word-focused, essentially. So it's got, obviously, you have a short, I think it's 140 character limit, and you can now add in extra links and photos, which previously they were all included in that. That was very stressful. But it is quite an engaging platform for that respect. So people use it on average 25 times a week, and they use it for business and news. As I mentioned briefly, it's for fast, time-specific content. So that's why you find your experts and news media are on there, because they are sharing, here's what's happening today and here's what's important. Quite often you'll find as well the trending content on there is very news-related and it's very timely. So if you're looking at hashtags on the side of Twitter, it's usually something that's going on in the world or in somewhere near you. One of the awesome things about Twitter is retweets. People are very, very, very open to sharing your content. You don't really find that as much on any of the other social media platforms. People are constantly looking for who said it first and can I share the source. So if you're talking about something that you're an expert in and commenting on some sort of trend or fad or craze, there is a high likelihood that your stuff's going to get shared and you get credited for it, whereas you won't find that as much on other social media channels. Now, I've included YouTube and Snapchat together. They are both great platforms in themselves. It was more for a time, from a time point of view, but also from a usability point of view. So they do quite overlap, and you can certainly use them. One thing I didn't quite touch on is with Snapchat, it was certainly used as a business tool about 12 months ago, but then Instagram Stories was introduced, and that channel itself has gone crazy. So a lot of businesses are stepping away from Snapchat and just using their Instagram channels because they've already got such a huge following there, and because it is a lot easier to upload customized content to Instagram as well. There was also a bit of another issue with Snapchat in terms of their cost for advertisers. It was crazy expensive 12 months ago, so I think they stopped people. But yes, but it is an awesome channel still. So 70% of users for both of the channels are under the age of 30. 40% of Australians use Snapchat, and 51% of Australians use YouTube. With that, they're both very video content heavy, so that's primarily what the platforms are for, so pretty obvious there with that one. And they're highly engaging because at this stage, most of the content consumed on social media is video. So both of these channels are quite engaging for audiences, but they are video content, so there can be a lot of creation time involved in it. So YouTube is used specifically for education and personality, so you might be a vlogger and you might be a brand personality that everyone knows. The other side of it as well is for education. So you can certainly use it to upload tutorials and to share your knowledge with other people. So it might be a useful platform if that's something you're thinking of doing. And then you'll be able to also share it across other mediums as well. So Snapchat is more specifically for personality, kind of like Instagram, but less brand focused. So you can be whoever you are, you can be your own person, etc. on Snapchat, and you don't have to have the brand mask on as much because people are kind of expecting to see more raw content, more uncut content, more real content on a daily basis from that. The awesome thing about YouTube is once it's uploaded there, you can embed it on other platforms. So it can live on your website or it can live other places as well. So that is one thing that YouTube is very useful for. So if you are uploading tutorials, you can upload it to YouTube and to your website. So that is primarily an awesome one to use. A lot of people find it quite familiar. It's been around for a very long time. People know what YouTube videos are and they know how YouTube videos work, so it is a useful content channel for that as well. With Interactive, so they've recently opened a thing where you can put a map up and see where your friends are. You can put filters on. You can add links to your post. So it's a very fun, playful channel, which is why it's quite interactive for the audience to see at the other end as well. And obviously with Snapchat as well, stories only last 24 hours, so it's very in the moment. It allows people to be themselves and not be afraid that it's going to stay on the internet forever, but it also means that it gives them that bit of freedom as well to show a bit more brand personality and to be a bit more real. All right, so I know that was a very full-on 20 minutes of text and content, but hopefully that sort of helped you form an idea of where we're going with social media and I guess what sort of channels offer what and how you can actually integrate them into your business. So one of the big things there is each of those channels I've just mentioned to you, you can certainly build a brand without costing, and you can build it for free. So that's it. I'm jumping into some questions now.
Thanks so much, Ella.
No worries.
So much information there, as you said, but we've got some questions in, so I think we'll just keep going with the flow while you're in the
awesome.
presenting mode. I'm just condensing one because I've had a similar question from both alumni and current students. So
yeah,
now that we've all got a good understanding of all the different channels, for someone who's starting out or has actually been out in practice and they're not social media savvy, what would be the first steps they would need to do to actually start with their brand or getting their brand out there, establishing their brand?
Absolutely. I think the first steps to do would be getting yourself some good visuals that align with your brand that you can share across different social media channels. So visuals being photos and things like that. So you don't necessarily have to pay for them. You can find them online through a number of free stock image sites. The second step would be, and this is my sort of way, and without knowing what type of practitioner you are or which sort of area you're in, I certainly suggest creating a Facebook page. I think all brands should have a Facebook page if you're an actual business, simply because there is 94% of Australians on there. So I'm not suggesting that you have to post to it every single day, but I do think it's very useful to have one because people do look for you there, and it almost gives you a bit of a ticket of authenticity if you have a brand on Facebook. And then I'd follow it up with certainly building your LinkedIn profile. So both of those things would be my first two steps for someone who isn't social media savvy, is building themselves up expert, because at the end of the day you want to know the person you're talking to, regardless of where they're working or what the brand is an expert. And then also building that Facebook presence.
Excellent. You mentioned posting. Some people have got natural talents to create materials and write it. If you're not a natural at that, is there any way that because I mean, everyone talks about blogging, natural health, and I mean, some people can really do it well. But, what should they be looking to post if they're not, say, a natural person that can sit down and write an article?
Yeah. No, that's totally fine. I think it's quite normal to have, I mean, because obviously, and this is one thing, don't beat yourself up. Your profession is fantastic, and I couldn't do it. So that is one big thing I always sort of say to business owners, like, oh my God, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, as a business person or as someone in any profession, you have to wear 17 million hats. So if you're not great at blogging, that's okay. What I'd certainly suggest is setting yourself, and this is what I tell all my well, is if they're doing it themselves, set yourself aside a marketing Monday for an hour or something every other Monday. And that way you can actually I usually go and have a coffee and give yourself some free time to be creative. And so whether that's, okay, I can actually sort of now think about writing a blog post, and quite often if you did want to go down that I really do want blog posts channel, think about things that are topical. So, changes of seasons, upcoming sporting events, if that's in your industry at all. Other things would be, for example, Melbourne Cup would be coming up soon, so what to eat and drink on the day, so whatever. Otherwise, share content that's actually relevant to your audience. So it may not have been written by you. It won't help your SEO, but it will still help place you as an expert in your area and add your own comments into that. So while you may not have written the whole blog, you might say something like, this is a great article, I absolutely agree, our practices do this, this and this, or just share simple visuals, if you can, and mix them in with some points of view or points of difference about your brand. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, brilliant. Excellent, thank you. Now, just rattling through the next ones, they're going to be a bit disjointed going all over the shop, but I'll just go through them.
Yeah.
How is it perceived when you block reviews? It is suggested as acupuncturists that we do this to prevent breaches of advertising laws. So that's a specific...
Okay, so when you say block reviews, you mean on Facebook or in general, like on the...
Yeah,
I'm assuming, I'm just going to go with Facebook. If you're
yeah.
turning off reviews, it's not the end of the world. In fact, I'm going to have to be honest with this one. I actually turned my reviews off because I had a couple of my competitors giving me bad reviews, and I've never worked with them in my life.
Yes.
I don't think it matters. I think if you have some solid testimonials on your website and you're sharing those testimonials on your social media channels, people start to see that. The thing as well is you can certainly have people commenting and posting on your wall if they really want to give you a recommendation as well. So in terms of turning off your reviews on Facebook, it's not the end of the world.
Okay, cool. Great. I also got to say a few people did contact me after that doing the survey that I didn't give everyone the option to do one or more. I only gave everyone the option to hit one. So,
I'm sure people have or more.
yeah, unfortunately, I kind of, the results aren't that accurate as I thought they were.
A little bit skewed.
Anyway, yeah. But, you live and you learn.
That's fair enough. You do. That's actually, sorry, just to stop you there for a second, Riley. That is one thing I do want to mention as well. I certainly don't recommend being on all of the channels if you are trying to do it for business. This isn't your primary job. You don't have to do it unless you've off-palmed it to someone else to do. Don't beat yourself up. I always suggest to clients that are doing it themselves, do one or two really well rather than trying to stretch yourself too thin across a lot, because then it does look disjointed and people aren't going to engage at all.
Great point. What is the actual new customer intake from social media such as Facebook and Instagram? So I guess from my point of view is that I think, and Rachel, you can clarify this, what are they looking at? Is that right? Is that what you think that is? What is the actual new customer intake from social media such as Facebook and Instagram?
What is the, does that mean return on investment, or so how many customers actually land from there? Like, do you get many? Yeah. I think that's what that is. If that's what that question is, it is pretty hard to put a number on it, and it's very dependent on the content you're putting out. So for certain certain people, they might even say, for me, I'd say as a social media business, my customer intake through social media would be about 80%. But that's because that's what we do.
Yes. However,
for other brands, if you're doing it yourself, it does definitely make it a little bit more tricky. But, I mean, you can be awesome at it, and people may engage with you authentically anyway. So it is a bit of a hard question to answer. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be ambiguous. But it very much depends on what content you're putting out and how well it's coming out. But also, outside of that, where they're landing. So if they're landing on a website that looks clunky and old, it doesn't matter how good your social media is, they may not click through anyway.
Yeah. And the other thing which we've talked about previously as well is this is one aspect of a marketing strategy that
absolutely
that need to have in place. So
yeah, this is one aspect, and this is an aspect that you can sort of, I guess, almost get away with doing yourself. But this shouldn't be a strategy. Full stop. There is, for example, search engine optimization, which I briefly touched on, but that's really where you're ranking in Google. That's a huge part of your digital strategy. Word of mouth, that's even more important. That's actually, just to go back as well, I believe that social media will never replace real human contact and real human recommendations. I think it's a great tool to help you get and have those conversations, but it won't replace them, not anytime soon. So absolutely don't rely on this as the be-all and end-all and they click through and become a customer. So quite often you'll find with social media, in terms of if you are using it to draw customers, there's usually a step before they commit to the biggest purchase. Okay,
I've got Melody's come in. She's asking a question over my head. I would love to know more about tracking pixels in Facebook.
Yep.
Please explain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can certainly go into this a little bit further because as Riley mentioned, we'll have a chat in another webinar down the track, but I'm more than happy to answer that. So track pixels are a line of code that you register in the business. So I'm not sure, Melody, if you have a business Facebook page, but if you do, jump into the back end of the page, so business.facebook.com. And in there, you can actually just register your business account for a pixel. From there, you grab a line of code and you pop it straight into your website. And what that does is actually shows when people are coming and going on your website. What I'll do actually, give me 1 second and I'll bring across my screen and I can show you what it looks like. So that's not it, but can you see this on my screen? Probably.
Yep. Yep. Got the website now, yeah.
All right, so if I go to social cut, yeah, so that was the census website and there was a little blue dot. This is just an example. You guys won't have this on this, but see on my website here, I've got a pixel tracker. This is a downloadable on Google Chrome. If you just type in Facebook Pixel Helper, if you want to be sneaky and check out what people are doing, you can. But we can see on here that these are the things I'm tracking. So I'm tracking that this pixel, that if you've looked into Facebook, you've come to this page, I can track that. And so if I remark it to page visitors, I'll be able to capture anyone who's come in a certain period. It gets a little bit more in depth when you're running specific campaigns. So this just sits here in the background, but it's more useful when you have a campaign going. So, you know, for example, if you wanted someone to actually walk into your clinic and you wanted to track, did they see a Facebook ad? The likelihood is they're logged into their mobile device on Facebook. And so if the ad's been served to them and within 7 days they've walked in, for example, 7 days is like your timer, you can change it to whatever you want. But if they've walked into, let's say, your clinic after 7 days and they have their phone logged in, we've tracked that our ads have actually made that happen. So that's really helping you get a deeper insight into, are they effective and how effective are they and what kind of cost is involved. So that kind of takes it back to that return on investment question. This is how you find out what the return on investment is.
Okay. For YouTube vids, what's the optimal time length?
It depends on what you're putting up. So, I mean, obviously, if you're doing a tutorial, it's going to go for much longer than, let's say, just an infomercial or something like that. People's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, so be aware of that. I know that with us, we do a lot of Facebook Live, and we try to keep them under 5 minutes. So if you are looking at doing, if it's a series and you're doing one-off things, I'd suggest maybe 5 minutes is a good benchmark. But it absolutely depends on what you're putting up.
Yep. Okay. What do you? Okay.
Sorry, I'll go back to the slide. Sorry, guys.
No, that's fine. Hi, and we've touched on this. What are your thoughts about sharing the same content on Facebook and Insta? Is it okay if the audience is mostly different?
So I don't love it. I think that you can certainly share a mixture of both. So I wouldn't say, I don't believe in having the same content absolutely the same, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't say if it was posted to Insta, don't worry about doing Facebook because you can just share it across. I think it's totally okay to have a mix of both, but I would certainly keep mixing it up because while the audiences may be different now, the ultimate goal is that you want that same customer connected to you in multiple different ways. So why would they want to see all of your channels if they're seeing the same thing is the question you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, definitely. I have a question in regards to Facebook. Is it possible to have a business page without having a personal page to open it through?
No. Facebook made it very difficult to do that. I have found that people make personal pages, as in they use their business email address and don't connect or add anything, so it's just like a dead account essentially. So you do it that way and you don't have to use it yourself. It just sits there with no profile picture and nothing really going on. But you do need to have a personal account to have a business Facebook page.
Yep.
And the other thing I didn't mention as well is if you are looking to use Instagram as your primary or as one of your main social media channels, you will need to have Facebook, so that way you can turn it into a business account. So you can't turn Instagram into a business account without a business Facebook page, therefore without a personal Facebook profile. So inception.
Okay. How can we get more followers on the social media?
By posting really engaging content.
Yep.
And also by connecting with people, so talking to them, and it depends on what channels you're talking about too. So it's pretty hard to get new followers on Facebook because of the algorithms of Facebook. I know that's another little buzz term. The other thing is, guys, and I'm not trying to push anything, but on Thursday nights we do host a live event through Women in Digital, which is a Facebook page, and we actually covered Facebook algorithms and what that means last week. So if you want to learn a bit more specifically about that, just jump back through there. But in terms of Facebook, it's hard to find new followers without spending money. Instagram, you can certainly find new followers through liking people's photos, through using hashtags. Twitter is a lot through retweeting and resharing of other people's content. And LinkedIn is a lot of just connecting with people directly.
Okay. How do you turn likes into walk-in sales? $1 million question. Seriously.
Okay. No, absolutely. You turn likes and, well, actually, that's straight up a thing. Never, ever, ever base your growth off likes. Likes is not the end game. It's absolutely right. It's sales. You turn to sales by doing maybe social media promotions, by engaging and actually talking to them. So, whether that's sending them a message and saying, hey, thanks so much for following me, or whatever that is, I'd love to reach out and chat to you. That's how you do it. Or the other side of it is you run direct marketing campaigns with a bit of money behind them, not a lot, but a bit of money behind them that specifically targets people to do, click through to this. And so there's a lot to do with your call to action. So buy this or do this or whatever, the copy involved or the text that they read. It's a lot to do with the visual. But the best way to do it is be authentic, be yourself, and be real, because people like engaging with real people.
And I guess going on from what you said earlier, and there's like from Facebook, if they go onto your website and however you've designed, if you've got like the call to action could be to have a newsletter to pop up.
Yeah.
Just so you can actually track the leads, something along those lines?
Yeah, absolutely. So, that might be clicking through to a website and signing up. As I mentioned as well, like with your website, you do want your website to be looking good. You can't just have social media channels. It's not the final sale space. The website is, or the phone, or wherever else it is. So just be aware of that. Like some people will try and sell something through social media. I don't really recommend it. Like in terms of selling, like actually make a transaction, don't do it.
Yep. Does the content have to be original? For example, on Instagram, do all the photos need to be taken by us, or can we use photos from the internet, Pinterest, etc.?
Yeah, no, they absolutely don't need to be used by you. So for us as a social media agency, we don't have a product, full stop. We don't have a single asset that is physical to take a photo of. Actually, that's not true. We have an ebook, and which if we printed it out, it's no longer an ebook, we can take photos of it. But so quite often we find it a little bit tricky to have, I guess, content in that respect. So if you are, like, let's say, reusing someone's image, as long as you're crediting them and crediting them properly, so for example, if you're using Instagram and you share someone's image directly, be sure to tag them in it and give them credit where it's due. And most of the time they won't get annoyed about you using it either, because it's giving them exposure, it's giving them reach, and it's showing their name. But if they do get snarky and ask you to remove it, just remove it. I certainly don't recommend using stock image websites that aren't free, because you will run into trouble. So there's certain websites that have no royalties and they're free, and there's certain ones like, for example, Shutterstock. If you haven't paid for the image, don't use it, because that's where they get their money from.
Okay. How often do you recommend posting on each platform without annoying users?
Yeah, that's a great question. With Instagram, I suggest daily. People don't get annoyed on Instagram. It's a visual platform and there's not a lot involved in it. With Facebook, look, there are pages that post 6 to 7 times a day. We tried it for a bit. People got really annoyed. Don't do it. Yeah, we certainly tried that. It didn't work. I find the best sort of thing for Facebook is every 2 days. But in saying that as well, it has to be good content. So don't post for the sake of posting. Twitter, we have stopped posting on Twitter because of our scheduling platform. It's not handling that currently, but we were posting 3 times a day. people don't get annoyed on Twitter either because, as I said, it's fast, relevant content. LinkedIn, if you're using a company page or a personal page, once every couple of days or once a week is fine. And what other channels did we cover? These ones here, Snapchat as much as you want. People don't get YouTube. People generally don't follow that as much, so as frequently as you have real content. Okay, that's not going to work. And have I missed a channel? I don't know. Maybe. No, that's right. So, yeah, hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah. In addition to that, another question, how much time should a small business spend on building content for social channels each week? So that was answering without annoying the user, but from your experience with small businesses, how much time do you think, because again, as you said, like,
yeah, time is money.
Alumni are expert practitioners, so running a business and that, while it's important, it's not their skill set. So,
no, absolutely. So a lot of it, and it doesn't have to be a weekly thing. So I know when I previously used to work in the agency side of my business for an advertising agency, we used to do monthly content. So I'd spend every day, it was my job, but per client I'd spend one day a month and build all the content, pre-schedule it. That was effective except for when things were trending and that needed to pop up because it meant you had to keep jumping back in. So some people do find that useful. Also fortnightly, so I'd suggest if you're doing it fortnightly, maybe two to 3 hours a week. So again, set aside that period of time in one hunk if you can and do it. Otherwise, if you're doing it weekly, maybe an hour to an hour and a half, depending on what type of content you're making. I certainly recommend scheduling apps if possible that obviously don't breach any of the terms of service of social media channels because it makes your life a million times easier, but it also means the content you're posting is quality, because the worst thing to do is be in a rush and go, oh, I'm just posting for the sake of posting, and it just looks rushed and sort of dodgy. So the best thing I find, and if I give recommendations to my coaching clients, I say to them, you know, set aside yourself an hour every Monday and go to a cafe, go and have a coffee, let yourself feel like you're having a bit of a break, and let your creative juices flow, because as exactly that, they're not a practitioner in social media or marketing per se, and their skills are very much elsewhere. So letting themselves be completely separated from their office and in the right headspace really helps them sort of step out and see things from a different angle.
We've got just under 10 minutes remaining, so we've got a couple of questions to go through, and we should get through the ones there. If any more come in, we'll just see how we go. But more importantly, I just want to pose a question to everybody. If we're to do a follow-up webinar to this, like this has given us a good foundation and grounding of social media, so we're all up at the same level, and even if some people are more advanced. What else do you want to follow up on with a second webinar that would assist you with your business? I just want to collate things, and Ella and I'll have a discussion after this just to see if there's enough interest and what you needed assistance with. But yeah, so send them through. So another question. Beyond what you post on Instagram, what is the difference between a personal Insta page and a business Instagram page?
The difference is you can actually see the sort of a lot more stats, which is kind of what you need to see. So, for example, if I have a look at my business Instagram page, I can see when my users are most online, so whether that's at nighttime or in the morning, so that really helps me post at the best time of day. You can also see what people are engaging with most. So it gives you a 2-year view of the best posts you've put out there, which is really good to see because you start to see trends and you can see what's working and what's not working. And so that really helps you self-evaluate, is my content actually engaging and are people doing it? So that is kind of the main uses of the business account. Also will allow you to actually boost posts if you want to. I don't really go down the boosting posts path, but it means that you do have a lot more control over, I guess, what's actually happening. Because if you don't have that, then you're kind of just posting willy-nilly, and while you might see there's a number of likes there and you can keep a track record somewhere else, you really aren't using it for business at that stage.
Yes. Can Twitter be used locally rather than as a global audience?
In terms of only talking to local people, or?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah, probably, yes. Yeah, so, I mean, if you have a following that is pretty local, people may find you through your website. Um, you will always be talking to a global audience, though. You can't just restrict it to local unless you're running ads and you're paying for them, because then you can restrict it to location, stuff like that. But in terms of using Twitter, if you're talking about local topics and if there's hashtags or things trending in your area, because that is one thing you do find on Twitter, is it will give you things trending near you as well. That will help you engage a local market.
Right. Any tips for coming up with a brand name?
Any tips for coming up with a brand name?
Yes.
I think for me, the best sort of tips to come up with a brand name is write down kind of the ideas and what values you have in branding. Okay, so for example, Social Cut. Like, that's a bit of a weird name. There's two meanings to it. One is we're going to give you the social edge. The other one is we're cutting through the crap that you hear through social media. And that's literally it. And so think about what made you start your business. So for me, it was frustrated that, you know, it wasn't clear for everyone how to use social media and not everyone had the same opportunities. And I was like, let's just cut the crap out essentially and just talk how it is. And that's literally how the name came out. So I don't usually tell people too much about that, but because it sounds a bit weird, people are like, oh, okay.
It's out there now.
It's out there. It's now recorded to you guys, so you've got an inside scoop. But I think the best way to do it is, one, writing out a bunch of names and thinking about ideas that really are core to you. Two, asking your friends and family. You know, hey guys, how do you like the sound of this one, or does this ring right? Because like this, and also the logo won't come instantly either. This is a secondary work of our logo in the last 10 months. This isn't even on our business cards yet. So things can change, and you can change them at any time. So whether that's your branding changes and stuff like that, that does happen. So don't feel like you have to commit and stay with it forever.
Okay. Will LinkedIn stay active if you don't post?
Yes. Yeah, so your link remain there. And I know that from personal experience. I made a LinkedIn account years and years and years ago and then rediscovered it on accident many years later. So it does remain active. You just need to reset your password if you've forgotten it. But yeah, it just stays there. It just sort of sits there with what's going on. You don't have to do anything though.
Yeah, but to the point, it's always good to have it updated just so it's all relevant.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So if people are looking for, you know, specific jobs or specific experience, one thing as well is I certainly recommend, especially you guys still studying, is connect with each other and endorse each other for certain skills, like skills relevant to your degree, because people do like to see that it's been endorsed. I didn't do that straight away, and I kick myself for it all the time. But yeah, it certainly is something people look at. They're like, oh, you know, what are they actually good at and who says they're good at it? Because as I said before, word of mouth is has way more currency than you telling someone something.
Yep. How do Instagram stories fit into Instagram use? Similar to Snapchat stories or more behind the scenes of the brand?
Both. I think it's very similar to Snapchat stories. I think you can certainly talk more about brand because people sort of who are connected to Instagram accounts seem to be a little bit more affiliated with the wider brand, and people in your Snapchat account, if you are using it for business, are more tight-knit and like almost your brand obsessors in a way, like the real brand junkies. So certainly keeping it a little bit more professional than what you may post on Snapchat. However, because it only lasts for 24 hours, certainly keeping it real, keeping it raw. But also with the Instagram stories, you can actually upload videos to it. So as long as they've been saved to your device that day, like for example today, you could pre-design it weeks ago and upload it. So they can be a little bit more curated, but people are looking to see raw, real, authentic stuff, and they're not expecting it to be as polished as your feed.
Okay, fantastic. I've got one question. So right at the start, you said your mum's a graduate from Endeavour. How have you seen her skills or the social media side of things evolve? Like, is she obviously got assistance from you, but...
Yeah. So she's not one of my clients. I originally did some coaching with her to, I guess, see, you know, and I'm not trying to embarrass her here. I love my mum and she's done an awesome job, but she was very much a novice.
Is your mum online? Please tell us.
She might be. She said she was going to sign in, so I think she might be online tonight.
If Ella's not here, could you please drop me a line? I want to know.
But her deal is she uses a lot of Instagram, so she'd never used the platform before, but she's found that she finds a lot of her sort of clients through there, and she shares a lot of her content because she's a nutritionist and she loves to cook.
Yes.
So she's found it's a really good platform for her. She still hasn't quite got the full hang of Facebook yet because we haven't done full coaching around it, but it's certainly one that she's on as well. So she currently uses Instagram most heavily, and she's actually used it to grow quite a bit as a business as well.
Okay. That's great. Okay, so I'm just going through. So I just posted a question about doing another one. We've got a resounding yes. They want another session. So
All right.
get some time available later on the year. I'll just touch on the types of things that everyone's talked about now, and Ella and I'll have to discuss these. But SEO is a common thread throughout.
Yeah.
Another one, just one off, was how to take aesthetically pleasing photos for a brand for Instagram. Maybe we can. Is that something you're able to touch on now, or is there?
Yeah, absolutely. There are. First things first. If you jump onto YouTube and have a look at a couple of tutorials, that's probably because the easiest thing is to show you rather than to explain without visuals.
Yes.
But in terms of taking aesthetically pleasing photos, if you're looking at flat lays, for example, make sure there's a lot of white space in it so it's not too big. When you're getting started, if you haven't taken anything like that before, look at a photo that you really like of someone else's and see if you can line up your products to be similar to that. Making sure that like you can use an iPhone to take nice photos, just making sure the lens is cleaned properly. You have an editing app. Don't post raw don't edit in Instagram, for example. Use a third-party app. One of them would be VSCO Cam. It's free, so that's pretty good to use. And also being aware of, I guess, what's surrounding the image as well. So if you're taking a headshot of someone, doing the third rule. So have their face on the left-hand side, for example, and leave 2/3 of the image empty or whatever. Okay. So just thinking about basic photography principles, which is why if you jump onto YouTube and search photography for social media or photography for Instagram, I can certainly touch on this next time as well if you guys do want to look into it a little bit deeper. But thinking about the space, not just the product, is the biggest thing, or not just the focus thing. What else is surrounding it is how you actually get the visually pleasing brand photos.
Yes. Okay. Amy, I hope that assisted you now. Let us know if you need more and we'll see what we can do.
Otherwise, Amy, feel free to shoot me an email to hello@socialcut and we can have a chat about it too. Okay,
great. Thanks. So again, just going through, if another web seminar was to be held, we'd like to know more about SEO and pixel trackers, follow-up suggestions, how to build contact techniques on building engaging content. SEO, so I mean...
SEO is a big one.
Yeah, that's right. So, okay. They're all just coming in. So we'll have a look at that. Again, try and condense it and put it in another webinar. Won't be able to touch on everything because an hour does go quickly, but we'll Ella will do it. At this point, I think we've got all our questions. There was one that came in. Cheryl, you might have missed this earlier. Your question is, I've heard that there are better times of day to post. Is this correct? And Ella said morning, evening, and then sometimes during the middle of the day, I think was the...
Yeah, I think certainly I post mostly in the morning. So when I say morning, I mean before 9. And I think for your audience as well, if they're active, healthy people, before 9 would be good as well.
Yes. And before we go, we will give a shout out to Diane. She is online. Hello, Diane.
Hi, Chicky. Hi, Mum.
That's right. Who would have thought you'd be saying hi, Mum on a...
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird, isn't it? It's Diane, like being on the news and waving.
We've had a request from some people to, can they follow you or find you on Instagram? So if you want to give that information out, what's your mum's Instagram name? So
Mum's Instagram name is food.prescription.
Okay, there you go.
So there's another brand name if that person asked a question is, what kind of brands can I think of, brand names? They thought hers is that she wants to use food as medicine, which I know is a big cultural thing at Endeavour. Yes. So food prescription. So think about, I guess, what message you want to give people at the end of the day and what you want them to think about when they hear your brand name, and just think around those subjects.
Okay, great. We've got another few people come in about the photography side of things as well, so thanks Edwina for sending that through. Yes, and we covered a lot in an hour, that's what we're saying, so I hope you've been able to take that in. It started with a good grounding and then gave you an opportunity to ask the question. So from here, Ella and I will have a discussion, and we're probably thinking about November, December. Is that what you're thinking, Ella?
Absolutely. I'm not trying to be pushy or anything like that. There is on our website a ebook for Instagram branding and that sort of stuff as well. So if you guys are interested in specifically Instagram and diving deeper, that is on our website. But yeah, I'm more than happy to chat to anyone about it as well.
Yeah. For me, Ella, it's important that students, if they haven't got the skills, and we can only cover so much in an hour, if there is information out there that they need to get, I mean, they need to know where it is, so that's fine. Okay, I think that's it. Well, if there's any questions I've missed, I've got to say sorry, but there's so many there. So, Ella, thank you so much for your time. I started off saying you're a marketing guru, so and you have definitely proven that tonight. So, thank you so much. And thank you everybody who tuned in. This has been recorded and it will be up on the Careers website. The last one is still in the list to go up as well, so there'll be 2 more webinar recordings to go up on the Careers website in the near future. But apart from that, I'll give you back your Thursday night. Ella, did you want to say anything to finish off from your side of things?
Yeah, no, that's all, guys. Thank you for tuning in. I hope I did help you learn some things. As I said, if there's anything, jump on the website, have a look around and see if there's anything in there that you have any questions about as well, because we do have some information in our blog section for small businesses. We have a small business blog specifically about starting up businesses. So we get insights from all people around. Otherwise, just shoot us an email at hello@socialcard, and one of my team members or I will get back to you directly as well.